Another explosive night in Southern California as protests continue over immigration raids. Police and crowds facing off in Los Angeles and Orange County. This morning, law enforcement is gearing up for a fifth day of unrest. Here's a look at the latest developments. President Trump is mobilizing an additional 2,000 National Guard members to help protect federal buildings in L.A. Now, that doubles his initial deployment. Also, 700 U.S. Marines are headed to L.A. The Marines are from an infantry battalion based in 29 Palms. The LAPD says more than 70 people were arrested over the weekend and 5 police officers were hurt. The Trump administration's decision to put more boots on the ground is being met by strong criticism from L.A. leaders.
Mario Ramirez kicking off our team coverage of the protest, joining us live from the Federal Detention Center in downtown. Mario.
Barbara, good morning. As local law enforcement is preparing for another day of demonstrations, we can tell you that the National Guard is stationed here around federal buildings. We're just outside the detention center. You can see them there. This federal building really became a focal point for protesters after it emerged that ICE detainees were being held here. And now hundreds of Marines are expected to join the National Guard under Trump's orders as tensions continue escalating. Take a look. About 700 U.S. Marines from the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment out of 29 Palms received weekend orders and are on the way, expected to arrive this morning. And although they're trained for close combat, officials say these Marines won't be on the front lines. Instead, they'll be focused on crowd control and de-escalation. Those are skills that they've been trained in specifically for this mission. That, according to U.S. Northern Command, which confirmed that those Marines will support the more than 2,000 National Guard troops already activated across the area. And late yesterday, the Pentagon said it's mobilizing an additional 2,000 National Guard troops under President Trump's order, and that now pushes the number of military personnel to more than 4,000, with growing opposition from Governor Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass. The governor calling the deployment unnecessary, saying it'll only inflame tensions. Now, if we come back out here to our live shot, we've been seeing these National Guard troops checking IDs for employees entering the building. The president's move to activate these National Guard troops marks the first time the federal government has done so without a governor's consent since the 60s.
We do begin tonight with Los Angeles bracing tonight after sweeping immigration raids sparked protests and clashes tonight. A U.S. official now confirming to ABC News 700 Marines are now on their way to Los Angeles to join California's National Guard, which was deployed by the president, not that state's governor. Late this afternoon, a peaceful protest after the arrest of a union leader, but the city is bracing for nightfall. It was a far different scene over the weekend. Protesters setting off fireworks right there, police officers right nearby. A line of self-driving vehicles set on fire. Crowds shutting down the 101 freeway downtown. LAPD officers trying to move them off. The moment a U.S.-based correspondent from Australia reporting on the protests. You can see there she's hit by an officer's rubber bullet. President Trump going over the governor's head, sending the state's National Guard to the scene, and tonight he's now sending hundreds of these U.S. Marines. Our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, leading us off tonight on the scene in Los Angeles. Matt is one-on-one with border czar Tom Homan tonight.
Tonight, 700 Marines are on their way to the streets of Los Angeles to assist the National Guard and law enforcement tamp down violent clashes with protesters angry over the Trump administration's immigration policies and arrests. Over the past 72 hours, pockets of LA descending into chaos. Protesters setting cars on fire, dumping bikes and scooters on police cruisers on the highway. Law enforcement firing hundreds of flashbangs and non-lethal projectiles and making dozens of arrests. It got so heated in the streets that a British photographer needed emergency surgery after being struck by a non-lethal projectile.
Moving them on through the...
And there was this moment. Watch as a correspondent for 9 News Australia
You just shut the...
reporting on the protest when an officer hits her with a rubber pellet. And tonight, an escalating war of words between California Governor Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump. Newsom suing the president for creating the conditions for this chaos when he sidestepped California officials to deploy thousands of National Guard troops.
First of all, starting with the fact that authorities are telling, U.S. officials are telling our team at the Pentagon, again, they confirmed 700 Marines. They're coming from 29 Palms in California. They've been ordered to assist in Los Angeles. They think they're going to be here in the next 24 hours. What's your assessment of that move there?
It's a little surprising for me. I didn't see that coming, but we talked about it, but I didn't think it would happen. So it's a little surprising that it has. Mr. Heggs has said it, and now they're deploying. Generally speaking, in these type of situations, We just use the National Guard. And I'll tell you, Kana, we've used them time and time again in New York and around the country. They've used them as well. They come in and they stabilize. So if you have government property or government operations going on, they'll stabilize that by standing guard. So that's what I think the Marines will do. That's what the National Guard is doing. I don't think it'll go any further than that. And here's an issue here going forward into the evening. Right now they're in the afternoon there, but going forward in the evening, you have a police chief who said he was overwhelmed. He needs help. Hopefully he's getting that. You also have a federal officers assaulted on Saturday, which really started the ratchet thing, this thing, as well as prosecutors. We see something going on. It's not over yet. Hopefully this will end peaceably, and tonight will be a different story than it was last night.
And that breaking news, a new military response to that protest that turned violent over the weekend. 700 Marines from 29 Palms are headed to Los Angeles. Good evening once again, everybody. I'm Michael Brownlee.
And I'm Carolyn Johnson. Colleen is off tonight. Those Marines making a stop at Camp Pendleton before heading here. We do have video of them on their way. The state of California is suing the Trump administration for federalizing the National Guard. We're expecting a news conference from L.A. Mayor Karen Bass and LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell in about 15 minutes. We will bring that to you live once it begins.
These raids have triggered protests since Friday afternoon. We are keeping our eye on the latest ones. You're looking at downtown L.A. Eliana Moreno live in News Chopper 4. Eliana.
Michael, and we're giving you the lay of the land here. We're starting with the east side of the Federal Building. This is Alameda, of course, one of the major streets here through the downtown LA area that is completely shut down from the 101 down to Temple. Lots of officers on that street. My pilot, James Pollard, is going to keep pushing along to the west so that we can show you Los Angeles Street as well. Now, Los Angeles Street at this point technically is open. However, that is where we have the heart of the demonstration taking place here on the west side of the Federal Building. We have what is likely now thousands of people on Los Angeles Street, people who are out here to show their support for the immigrants who were detained on Friday. And what we have here are people all up and down the street with their flags, with their signs. And just beyond that, we have the 101 freeway. Now, this is where we have an extremely heavy police presence. Part of their objective is just to keep people off the freeway. They have been very successful at that. The 101 freeway remains open through the area, though some of the on-ramps and off-ramps are currently blocked.